Who was the greatest sinner in the Bible? Which biblical figure committed the worst atrocities? Today, we're going to discover who the 6 most cruel men in the Scriptures were and understand what each of them did. But first, I'll ask for that quick support that costs you nothing. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to help us grow here on YouTube. In 6th place, we have Emperor Herod. Herod the Great ruled Judea starting around 7 BC. During his reign, he built magnificent palaces and impressive fortresses, leaving his mark on architectural history. However, he also developed a reputation marked by tyranny and brutality. In the context of Jesus' birth, the Gospel of Matthew recounts a terrifying episode. Herod learned of the prophecy that a new king of the Jews had been born, and he feared that this king might threaten his throne. Driven by fear and an obsession with power, he made a terrible decision: to order the massacre of the innocents. Herod commanded the killing of all boys under 2 years old in Bethlehem and the surrounding areas, trying to eliminate the potential threat to his rule. This cruel and bloody act resulted in the death of countless innocent children, becoming, over the centuries, a symbol of the cruelty that absolute power can produce. However, his plan failed. Joseph, Mary, and the child Jesus fled to Egypt before the tragedy reached them, thus fulfilling the divine will. Herod's evil was overcome by God's protection, by love, and by the perseverance of the Holy Family. In 5th place, we have the Pharaoh of the Exodus. The Exodus narrative is one of the most powerful and iconic stories in the Bible, portraying the struggle of the people of Israel for freedom from slavery in Egypt. In this context, the Pharaoh emerges as an antagonist whose hardness of heart and wickedness stand out. It all began when God heard the cries of the Israelites, who were suffering under Egyptian oppression. Then he called Moses, a man raised in Pharaoh's court, to lead his chosen people. Though initially reluctant, Moses accepted the divine mission and confronted Pharaoh with a clear demand: "Let my people go." However, the Pharaoh of the Exodus, whose name is not mentioned, repeatedly refused to obey. His resistance was firm and defiant. In response, God sent a series of plagues to demonstrate his power. Even so, Pharaoh remained stubborn. The plagues, such as water turning into blood, frogs, lice, flies, boils, hail, and darkness, clearly showed divine intervention. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. The conflict reached its peak with the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn. God instructed Moses to warn that at midnight, the angel would pass through Egypt. The Israelites were given specific instructions to protect themselves. They were to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. When the plague struck, all the firstborn in Egypt died, from the sons of Pharaoh to those of prisoners. Deeply shaken by the death of his own son, Pharaoh finally relented and allowed the Israelites to leave, pleading with them to depart from the land. In 4th place, we have King Nebuchadnezzar. He ruled Babylon in the 6th century BC and is best known for conquering Jerusalem and destroying the Holy City. These events are recorded in the books of Kings, Jeremiah, and Daniel. Determined to expand his empire, Nebuchadnezzar laid siege to Jerusalem and, in 586 BC, invaded the city. The invasion led to total destruction, including the looting of Solomon's temple, which was the spiritual center of the Jewish people. This act was devastating, as the Jews saw their place of worship desecrated and destroyed. In addition, many survivors were taken captive to Babylon, beginning the period known as the Babylonian exile, which lasted for decades and brought great suffering to the people. In third place, we encounter the remarkable story of Nebuchadnezzar I. He was another king of Babylon, mentioned in the book of Daniel. The Emperor Nebuchadnezzar ordered a massive golden statue to be built in his capital, Babylon. He decreed that all inhabitants of the kingdom, regardless of their origin, should bow down and worship the image whenever they heard a certain sound. Those who refused would be thrown into a blazing furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were 3 young Hebrews who served in Nebuchadnezzar's administration. They were faithful to God and refused to worship the statue, as it went against the command to worship only the God of Israel. Their refusal quickly reached the king's ears, and he became furious. Nebuchadnezzar ordered the 3 young men to be brought before him and gave them another chance, offering them the opportunity to bow and worship the statue when they heard the music. However, they stood firm in their faith and refused again. This made the king even more enraged, and he ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual, making it extremely intense. The soldiers bound Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and threw them into the fire. The heat was so intense that the soldiers who carried out were killed. But something extraordinary happened. When Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace, he saw not 3, but 4 men walking among the flames. They were unharmed, and their clothes were not damaged. The 4th man had a divine appearance, and God's presence was with them. Amazed and astonished, Nebuchadnezzar called the 3 young men out of the furnace. They came out completely unharmed, without even the smell of smoke on their clothes. The king was astonished by the power of the God they worshipped and praised their unwavering faith. Then he issued a decree declaring that the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was the supreme God, and that no one should speak against him, under penalty of severe punishment. In second place, we have Saul, the first king of Israel. Chosen by God to lead his people, Saul started well, but his journey was marked by serious mistakes that led to his rejection. At first, Saul seemed like an ideal leader, strong, imposing, and approved by the people. He achieved important victories, defending Israel and uniting the tribes. However, over time, he began to act against God's will. One of his first major failures was offering a sacrifice without the prophet Samuel's authorization, showing impatience and lack of trust. On another occasion, he disobeyed God's command by sparing King Agag and part of the Amalekite spoils. In addition, Saul became consumed by jealousy of David, who gained fame after defeating Goliath. Driven by envy, he tried to kill him several times. In a moment of desperation, Saul even sought guidance from a medium, which was forbidden by God's law. This act revealed his complete loss of faith. Because of his repeated disobedience, God withdrew his blessing, and Saul was rejected as king. Later, he died in battle, surrounded by enemies. Finally, in first place, we have Judas Iscariot. Judas was one of the 12 apostles chosen by Jesus, having lived closely with him and witnessed his teachings and miracles. Despite this, his story is marked by betrayal. Judas handed Jesus over to the authorities in exchange for 30 pieces of silver during the events leading up to the crucifixion. The motivation behind Judas' betrayal is still debated. Some believe it was greed, while others suggest disappointment or an attempt to force Jesus to reveal his power. Regardless, his act is considered one of the most painful in Christian history. He identified Jesus with a kiss, leading to his arrest. Later, overcome with remorse, he tried to return the money but was rejected. Consumed by guilt, he ended up taking his own life, bringing his story to a tragic end. It's worth remembering that there were many other equally wicked men throughout the Bible. If you'd like, I can bring a second part with more stories like this. Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care and God bless.